Small boats, big lies, a tale as old as time. This is how moral panic works. Pick a visible, easily understood threat, repeat it until it drowns out every other problem, and soon people are convinced it's the crisis. Not underfunded hospitals, not a broken housing market, not corporate tax avoidance. It's no accident that Reform UK have built their entire identity on this. It's simple, it's emotional, and it means they never have to explain how they'd actually fix your rent, your bills, or your pay packet. Britain's selective memory. Now, I'm not here to shame anyone who's patriotic. Pride in Britain's achievements isn't necessarily wrong, but when we only want to remember the positive side of our history, that's when it can get dangerous. Because when we ignore that Britain has, for centuries, interfered in, invaded, and extracted from countries across the world, it's much easier to pretend that people arriving here have nothing to do with us. Instability doesn't just appear out of nowhere, and often Britain has been in the room, sometimes leading the meeting. If you ignore this part of history, small boats can look like an invasion. If you remember it, they look more like the fallout from choices we, as a nation, helped create. And I can already hear the chorus, "That's not my fault, the sins of the father, why should I be punished for that?" Well, you shouldn't. Nobody's saying you should suffer, but maybe stop and ask who is really suffering right now and who is benefiting. The people in these boats aren't escaping a bad Wi-Fi connection. They're escaping wars, persecution, and chaos that, more often than we care to admit, trace back to decisions made in London boardrooms and Westminster corridors. If you take pride in one side of Britain's story, you've got to take responsibility for the other. You can't keep the cake, eat the cake, and pretend someone else baked it. The greatest hits of reform, and the truth. They're mostly young men. Yes, around 71% of detected irregular arrivals since 2018 have been men over 18. Why? Because this journey can kill you. Families often send the person most likely to survive first. The idea is simple: get one person to safety, then reunite legally. But here's the hard truth that no one wants to talk about. There is no general visa to apply for asylum in the UK from overseas. You can apply to work, you can apply to study, but if you're fleeing persecution, there's no queue, no appointment, no asylum visa. Family reunion exists only after someone wins refugee status. Resettlement schemes are small and nationality specific. They're just economic migrants. If this were mostly about wages, the numbers wouldn't look like this. Since 2018, around 66% of small boat cases decided have been granted protection. That's higher than the overall grant rate for all asylum claims. That means the majority of people risking the channel are recognised as refugees with well-founded fears. If they were real refugees, they'd stay in the first safe country they landed in. It sounds like common sense, but in law and in practice, it's not how asylum works. The Refugee Convention doesn't say you have to stop in the first safe country you set foot in. UK courts have confirmed it. The UN Refugee Agency calls that idea a political slogan, not a legal rule. And if you think about it, safety isn't just about dodging bullets, it's about building a future. If you had to flee tomorrow, would you stop in the first country that let you cross the border, even if you didn't speak the language, had no family there, and no way to earn a living? Or would you try to get somewhere you had a support network, people you knew, a language you can work in, a chance to actually rebuild your life? For most refugees, that's the calculation. It's not about country shopping, it's about survival, dignity, and having a realistic shot at starting again. And remember, the UK takes fewer asylum seekers per head than many European countries. In 2024, we ranked around 14th in Europe, well below the EU average. They're criminals or terrorists. We didn't say that about Ukrainian refugees, did we? So why are we saying it about darker-skinned people? Almost 99% of small boat arrivals claim asylum as soon as they land. This triggers a formal process with ID checks, security screenings, and background assessments. If someone had a record for serious crime or terrorism, that's when it would be caught. Painting whole groups as a threat isn't about safety, it's about suspicion and who we choose to apply it to. They're all on benefits. Most asylum seekers aren't allowed to work. UK rules ban them from getting a job while their claim is being processed, a process that can take months or even years. So yes, they receive basic state support because our system forces them to. That's around £49 a week, plus basic accommodation, far below what anyone could live on independently. If we let people work while they waited, they could pay their own way, contribute to the economy, and integrate faster. Instead, we keep them idle and dependent at far greater cost to the taxpayer, what we never put on the front page. While we shout about dinghies, the same politicians whipping up outrage quietly underfund the services we all rely on. And the same media somehow forgets corporate tax avoidance, rent hikes, stagnant wages. There's a cheaper, kinder fix hiding in plain sight. Process claims faster. Let people work while they wait. And maybe, just maybe, we could also stop selling arms to conflicts around the world and acknowledge the damage we've done in nearly every part of the globe. From the centuries of empire to interventions still within living memory. The ripples from those choices are still moving, and people are still running from them. It's always been this way. Everyone in Britain is descended from an immigrant. Go back far enough and your family probably arrived here in a canoe, or wandered over when the channel was a muddy path. Romans came, Vikings came, Normans came, Anglo-Saxons came, in boats, then immediately started complaining about other people in boats. Celts, Huguenots, Irish labourers, West Indians, Ugandan Asians, all here, all part of the story. And now, in the 21st century, on this damp little rock orbiting a medium-sized star in a galaxy of 100 billion stars, someone in a pub has decided now is the precise moment in the entire history of human civilization when migration must stop. This patch of land, this year, my shores, done. How arrogant do you have to be to think that you personally get to end 200,000 years of human movement? The truth about small boats isn't that they're Britain's biggest crisis. The truth is, they're a mirror, reflecting the choices we've made and the stories we tell ourselves to avoid facing them. Hold the line, tell the truth with context, refuse the easy villain, and measure a country not by how loudly it says we're full, but by how it treats the people who arrive with nothing but a name.